Let's talk about Cloudera SDX. Cut through the hype and get to what's real. My name is Wim Stope, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Cloudera. Let's start by talking about multidisciplinary analytics, the vehicle you need to go from insight to action. And to do so, it's not just one application or workload or analytics type you need. It's a foundation for all your analytics innovation and determines how successfully you can meet both your business and operational goals. With multidisciplinary analytics, you can ask bigger questions and solve complex analytics problems. When I look at successful customers, this is how they're achieving that success. But it requires a platform that supports multifunctional analytics, minimizes the time to add elastic workloads in a self-service manner, one that's secure, cost-effective, and provides a scalable model for sharing data. And the point is, we've all been doing analytics for a very long time, for a variety of reasons and in a range of departments, so we've accumulated some baggage. We've gathered legacy systems. Each own application does its own thing, and we somehow cobble them together to integrate. Each application or workload has dedicated compute, data storage, and context. Elements like the security that we apply, governance like data lineage, lifecycle, how long can we keep data, do we need to purge it, control, how do we deploy it, and very importantly, data catalog, what's the business meaning of the data. Each of these applications requires its own proprietary tools and infrastructure. There are different vendors, products, and services, and throughout the project, they're all needed and needed in different ratios. Maybe you start off with ETL and data engineering to load your data into a data warehouse or a data mart, from which you do analytics in SQL. But if you're looking at real time, you also need some solution for that. To get true insight into your data, maybe you resort to data science. Each of these is its own siloed application, and you may find that you have several of each kind, of each workload, several ETL tools, several data warehouses, and so on. A fragmented approach is difficult, expensive, and risky. Managing and guaranteeing security or compliance across the board is hard because nothing is shared. Context is re-established each and every time. If you have a new application or workload, it means you need a new context. And there are whole disciplines that have grown around trying to keep this all in sync. So then use a big data platform on premises, a single physical cluster, everything in one place so the shared data experience, that's a given. If you choose your platform right, it's strong on the multifunctional support. It does have all the workloads and types of analytics you need. There is a shared data experience. There is a shared information security model that can be implemented, defined once and be done. It's okay or moderate when it comes to cost management, tenant isolation, and workload elasticity. And on-premises is certainly a good place to be, even though it's weak on self-service and speed of deployment. And to address those last two challenges, organizations are branching out and looking at alternatives to meet the business needs in just those areas. Self-service need is often driven by the time to insight and action, and that needs to be forever shorter. New capacity, it may be needed in the next 10 minutes, and then the need for it is past tomorrow. That certainly sounds like cloud, right? Well, and it certainly does. It's right on those fronts. Cloud deployments are strong where on-premises is weak. It's strong on self-service and strong of the speed of deployment. But if you haven't carefully looked at your cloud strategy, you find yourself reintroducing context silos. And with that, it is weak on a shared data experience, weak on a shared information security model. And if you don't choose the right cloud provider, you may not have all the analytics capabilities you need. It's compounded by the fact we're now dealing with a mix of both permanent and transient workloads. Each time a new transient workload is spun up, you need to establish the context. You need to apply security provided with the metadata and so on. Once the workload goes away, how do you harvest that context? How do you harvest elements like data lineage? Oftentimes, they simply drop out and disappear, back to square one in terms of challenges. And with increased regulation for all industries on dealing with things like personal information, the biggest ones are around security and governance. The crux is that data context. To have a workload, you need data, you have compute power, and you need context, security, governance, lifecycle, and so on. The point is that compute and data are becoming further separate, and you can think of compute as stateless. However it's deployed, cloud, on premises, transient or long running, the same chipset that I'm using today for data engineering tomorrow can be used for analytics. The data itself, of course, that's stateful, it's stored somewhere. Doesn't matter whether it's cloud-based or on premises, doesn't matter whether it's HDFS, S3, ADLS, or anything else. But what about that context? What about the schema definitions, permissions, who can access what data, encryption keys, governance, data lineage? Data context should be stateful too, but is currently stateless. And it's that statelessness that creates synchronization and usability challenges for administrators and end users alike. So how do you enable stateful and consistent context? That's why we introduced Cloudera SDX, or Shared Data Experience, the foundation of Cloudera Enterprise. SDX makes it possible for companies to run dozens or hundreds of analytic applications against a common pool of data and metadata. One logical cluster provides a shared data experience to multiple workloads and tenants. It provides a centralized, consistent framework for the complete data context. It makes it faster, easier, and safer for organizations, teams, and people to develop and deploy high-value, multifunction use cases like customer next best offer, clinical predictions, or risk modeling. It cuts through the silos and unifies data, metadata, analytics, management, security, and governance, and empowers that self-service. So truly, SDX combines the strengths of on-premises and cloud-only deployments. Cloudera provides the true and full multifunctional support, a shared data experience, a shared information security model. And because you can deploy however and wherever you like, including the cloud, it has the ability for that self-service and the speed of deployment. SDX is a fundamental part of Cloudera Enterprise, and therefore it's wherever and however the platform is deployed. And that includes ALTUS. SDX is a fundamental part of ALTUS data engineering or data warehouse, and it already exchanges the context between those workloads. But now, and with our current release, SDX is delivering on its promise for a truly shared data experience. Data context and metadata can now freely be shared between customers' own CDH deployments through ALTUS Director and those managed as a service by Cloudera. Context in one is directly and immediately available to the others, transient or persistent. Let's look at a couple of examples. Let's say you're running CDH for data warehousing on Azure as a permanent cluster, because that's what IT wants. It's highly customized. You can then, with a minimum of fuss and setup, burst out to ALTUS for a data engineering workload that might be transient, running on AWS. It's running on a daily basis, it's highly automated, and AWS in that case gives you a better total cost of ownership. You can set the data context, or rather SDX automatically sets the data context for the transient workload, but also harvest it once it's complete. A fairly straightforward scenario already delivers tremendous benefits. But what about something more complex, like say a manufacturer? Suppose they want to analyze the continuous stream of data coming off the factory floor to improve their business. Well, first, the plant manager will probably want a real-time view of everything happening in the plant. So they may use the operational database capability that we have deployed to the cloud using CDH. Secondly, they'll probably want a historical view for comparison purposes. And for that, they may require transient data engineering using ALTUS. And thirdly, they want a predictive model to predict outages and downtimes. And for that, they may use data science through CDH again. And finally, they want to create a set of reports that enables a corporate team to analyze and compare plants. And for that, perhaps they want to use data warehousing, and because they got a good deal on AWS, they're using it as a permanent cluster through ALTUS. SDX provides the shared data context between each and every one of those workloads. The benefits range from increased security, better governance, to reduced time to insight, and reduced need for manpower in order to keep all this in sync. Organizations can now choose the most appropriate tool and deployment style for the workload, not based by or limited by what integration is available. So now you have consistent data context, consistent security, governance, as well as the flexibility to deploy. The impact of that goes beyond the individual use cases or projects. It accelerates your data-driven journey as a whole. Each of your steps from visibility to productivity to transformation already requires multidisciplinary analytics for each and every one of them. SDX already for each and every one of these, improves business insight, agility, and security, while also reducing operational costs, manpower, and security risks. But also at a macro level, between the steps of the journey, SDX further amplifies these benefits, enabling the journey as a whole beyond that single step. So wherever you are on your journey, you can add SDX to your CDH workloads by following the reference architecture we provide. To then also see how you can quickly and easily draft in permanent or transient workloads through ALTUS without having to worry about data context, you can take advantage of our free 30-day trial for just that. With that in place, you're ready for maximum cloud flexibility, enabling enterprise IT to control workloads anywhere, managed anyway, and deliver a shared data experience business and data professionals demand. How are you going to use it first? Thanks for your time.